when you want to convince someone to see things from your perspective or influence their actions. There are two essential steps you need to take. The first step is to understand the person, get inside their mind, so to speak. The second step is to communicate with them in a way that speaks directly to their awareness, using the right words and techniques to subtly guide their thinking and decisions. This idea extends beyond just negotiation or persuasion in professional settings. It's also incredibly useful in social and personal interactions. For example, if you're trying to attract someone, say, a woman you're interested in, you can use these principles to influence her thoughts and actions. By understanding how to enter her inner mind and the psychological dynamics behind communication, you can build a deeper connection. These techniques aren't about manipulation. They're about establishing rapport and creating an authentic understanding, which can naturally lead to mutual influence. The most fundamental part of influencing someone, whether it's in a business deal, a friendship, or romantic interest, is the ability to establish a connection. Think back to a time when you clicked with someone instantly. This might have been a stranger, a colleague, or even a date. The feeling wasn't random. It was the result of both people aligning on a nonverbal level. Creating this connection is a skill you can learn, and once you establish rapport with someone, they become far more open and receptive to your ideas, suggestions, and even your influence. But how do you build this connection quickly, without forcing it or being overly obvious? The answer lies in nonverbal communication. Much of our interaction with others is unconscious, and a large portion of the information we process is based on nonverbal cues. These include everything from facial expressions and gestures to posture and movement. Every person you encounter is unconsciously sending signals about how they're feeling. And by learning to interpret and mirror these signals, you can begin to understand their inner emotional state. Now, let's dive deeper into this concept. Imagine breaking down the human body into three main zones: the head, the torso, and the feet. Each of these areas sends powerful messages to the people around you. The head is often where you can read a person's immediate emotional state through facial expressions or eye contact. The torso reflects posture and energy level, whether someone is leaning forward in interest or slouching from boredom. Finally, the feet often tell a hidden story. People are sometimes unaware of how their feet shift or point, which can indicate nervousness, discomfort, or attraction. When it comes to building rapport, it's essential to understand how your body reflects your emotions. But it's even more powerful to recognize that by adjusting your body language, you can change your emotional state. This is a crucial insight. For example, if you're feeling down, a shift in posture can instantly make you feel more upbeat. Similarly, if you mirror someone else's body language, you can begin to experience what they're feeling. Let me give you a simple example to illustrate how this works. Next time you go for a walk, try adjusting your posture intentionally. Start by walking with your head up, looking at the sky, tall buildings, or the tops of trees. Smile as you walk, even if the smile feels forced at first. After a few minutes, notice how your mood starts to shift. You might start to feel more confident or lighter. Then, try reversing your posture. Walk with your head down, eyes fixed on the ground, and slow your pace. Place your hands in your pockets and drag your feet for a while. You'll quickly notice that your mood changes again, but in a negative direction, perhaps feeling less energetic or more introspective. What's fascinating here is that you didn't need to change your thoughts. You didn't need to think about something uplifting or distressing to shift your mood. Your body posture alone was enough to trigger these emotional responses. This illustrates the profound connection between the body and the mind. When you adjust your physical posture, your emotional state follows. Now, let's explore how you can use this knowledge to connect with others and influence their moods. When you're interacting with someone, especially if you want to understand them better, observe their nonverbal cues carefully. Pay attention to their posture, facial expressions, and even subtle movements. These clues will tell you whether they are feeling positive, neutral, or negative. Once you've identified their emotional state, you can adjust your own body language to mirror them. This helps create an unconscious sense of alignment and empathy. Here's the crucial part. As you match their posture and energy, you'll begin to feel what they're feeling. This is called emotional contagion, the idea that emotions can be transferred from one person to another through nonverbal signals. When you synchronize your body language with someone else's, you're entering their emotional world. You begin to truly understand their mood, and they feel understood in return. But how do you use this knowledge to influence their mood in a positive way? Once you've matched their body language, you can gradually shift it. If they seem tense or anxious, for example, start to adopt a more relaxed posture. Open your body, lean back slightly, and soften your facial expression. By doing so, you're sending a signal to their brain that it's safe to relax. Because of emotional contagion, they'll begin to mirror your calm demeanor. Before you try this with someone you don't know well, such as a potential romantic interest, practice with casual encounters. These might include people you interact with on a day-to-day basis, like a cashier, a neighbor, or a colleague. Observe their body language carefully and mirror their movements in a subtle, non-obtrusive way. After a few minutes, notice how their mood shifts in response to your mirrored actions. This exercise will help you build the skill of reading and influencing the emotional states of others. Once you feel comfortable with this skill, you can apply it to more meaningful situations, like meeting someone you're attracted to. The goal is not to manipulate their feelings, but rather to create a sense of shared experience. When you align your body language with theirs, they will feel more connected to you, which builds trust and openness. This is the foundation of any successful relationship, whether it's friendship, romance, or professional rapport. For example, you can use phrases like, "You already know everything about that, don't you? It's easy, isn't it? Probably it's time for another drink, isn't it? My plane is about to take off. There's no problem if I skip a line, is there?" These phrases work because they create an automatic assumption in the listener's mind that the statement is true. The key here is to ask a question that doesn't actually require a real answer. You are subtly guiding the person to agree with you by embedding your desires within the question. You want the listener to subconsciously affirm the statement without resistance. However, be cautious when using this technique. It's effective for casual situations, like persuading someone to join you for a drink or asking for small favors. But don't rely on this approach for major decisions, such as asking someone to marry you or give you everything they own. For those kinds of situations, you need a deeper level of connection and trust. Additionally, note that the tone of your voice is key when using these phrases. When you ask these questions, ensure your voice tone drops at the end, rather than rising as it typically does when asking a question. If your tone rises, you're inviting a negative response, which is the opposite of what you want. A declining tone signals certainty and affirmation, making it more likely for the other person to agree. Another technique that can work is to make suggestions that feel like joint decisions, like using the phrase, "let's," rather than asking for permission. For instance, "Let's walk a bit more. Let's have another one. Let's go to my place." This phrasing gives the impression of a mutual decision, even though you are subtly guiding the other person towards your preferred outcome. It's a disguised command, presenting your suggestion as if it's something you both naturally want to do. Compare this with asking, "Should we walk a bit more? Should we have another one? Should we go to my place?" The second set of questions invites the other person to refuse. This should phrasing creates a decision point, making it easier for them to say no. In contrast, "let's" carries a sense of certainty, and because of that, the other person is less likely to reject it. The idea here is to get the person to say yes multiple times. Every time they agree with you, their subconscious begins to align with a pattern of agreement. This creates a yes mode, and it becomes easier for them to continue saying yes, even when you present a more important request later on. For example, a waiter may say, "This or that, shall I bring you a cocktail while you wait?" Or, "Do you prefer a glass of wine?" This works because the waiter provides two options, both of which are acceptable, but neither of which allows for a refusal. By framing the question this way, the choice is easy to make, and the other person is more likely to say yes to one of the options. The key is to limit the choices in a way that makes it seem like they are both positive, while avoiding options that could result in rejection. When creating choices, avoid tired phrases like my place or your place. They've been used too many times and have lost their impact. Instead, make sure the options are fresh and relevant. Another powerful technique is to anticipate the future reaction of the person. This works by assuming that the person will respond in a certain way and then telling them what that reaction will be. This technique primes the person to expect and accept the outcome, making it more likely that they will follow through. For example, I know you'll be thrilled about this. I know you'll want to repeat the experience. Wait until you hear what I'm going to tell you. I know you'll be impressed. By speaking with this level of certainty, you program the listener's mind to agree with you before they've even had a chance to evaluate the situation fully. Another powerful strategy involves logical leaps. Use connecting words like therefore or phrases like this means that to link two ideas, one that is true and another that you want the person to agree with. This is a way of making the connection between your point and what you want the other person to believe or act upon. For example, you're watching this video, true. This means that you like it. Maybe true, and I certainly hope so. We've been together for 3 months, therefore. I must be serious about this relationship. I've been working at this company for 3 years and have proven my loyalty. This means that it's time to take action and discuss my position in the company and my salary. The first statement is always something true, and the second statement is the one you want to link it to. By using logical reasoning, you create a bridge that subtly guides the other person to agree with you. This works because it makes the conclusion feel inevitable. And once the other person accepts the premise, they are more likely to follow through on the desired action. Timing is key in all of these techniques. You can't just apply them randomly. You need to be mindful of the context and the relationship you have with the person you're trying to influence. Using them in a way that aligns with the situation and their emotional state will maximize your success. Finally, consider the technique of giving multiple commands in sequence. Here's how it works. You start with the command you want the person to follow, and immediately after, you give another command that is easier to follow. The second command is often more likely to be followed, and as a result, the person will subconsciously follow the first one as well. For example, think about it and call me. The first command is think about it, which may seem like a passive suggestion. The second command, call me, is more active and immediately actionable. The person is more likely to act on both commands because the second one is easier, and the first one sets the stage for it. This technique is powerful because the person's mind is already prepared to take action by the time the second command is presented. They may not even realize they're following 2 commands at once. By incorporating these techniques into your daily interactions, you can begin to shape the responses of those around you in subtle but powerful ways. Over time, you'll get better at reading people, making connections, and influencing their behavior without them even realizing it. For example, consider these phrases. It's late and you're tired. Take out the garbage and come to bed early. Come over to my place to have a drink and tell me everything. I shouldn't tell you this, but this technique builds a sense of trust and intimacy. By saying something like, I shouldn't tell you this, you create a feeling of confidentiality and secrecy. This makes the other person feel special, as though you trust them with sensitive information. And it subtly encourages them to reciprocate that trust, treating you as a confidant. For example, you might say, he's always late to work, but he's good at what he's doing. He's good at what he's doing, but he's always late to work. Notice the difference? The second part of the sentence is what gets the emphasis. People tend to focus more on what follows the word, but so in these cases, you are shifting the attention to what you want them to believe or remember. The phrase after the but is where the emotional weight lies. For instance, I know that I don't have much experience in this area, but I've proven in the past that I can adapt quickly to new environments. You're a nice guy, but you're not my type. I really like you, but I feel better without a partner at this time. In these examples, the phrase that follows but helps convey the core message you want the other person to take away, whether it's about highlighting your adaptability or conveying a gentle rejection. Next, consider using the ideal question technique. This involves phrasing your questions using the words ideal or ideally. These questions guide the other person to think about what they truly want, not what they don't want. This shift in focus can bring out a deeper level of truth in their response and also inspire positive feelings. For example, so ideally, what is the perfect candidate you're looking for? Who would be your ideal candidate? If you're interviewing for a job, asking about the ideal candidate allows the interviewer to describe what they envision as the perfect fit. Then, you can tailor your responses to match their description, aligning yourself with their vision. This subtle mirroring increases your chances of being seen as that ideal candidate. Now, let's move on to the concept of telling it without telling it. This technique allows you to express your opinion or influence someone's actions without directly stating it. For example, I can't tell you to leave him. The decision must be yours. I won't be the one to tell you that you're wrong. I don't even want to think about the stress you're feeling now. I don't want you to worry about me. I'll be fine. These statements convey your point of view indirectly. In the first example, you're not directly telling the person to leave their partner, but the suggestion is subtly planted in their mind. Similarly, by saying, I don't want you to worry about me, you are actually inviting the other person to worry, which often leads them to care for you even more. You can also give orders disguised as advice by telling the other person not to do something you actually want them to do. For example, don't worry about paying me back what you owe me. In this case, you're indirectly telling them that it's okay not to pay you back, which might make them more likely to do so out of guilt or a sense of obligation. It's a clever way to achieve the result you want without directly asking for it. Another interesting technique is yes means no. This approach involves offering something you don't really want to do, but framing it as a suggestion that the other person can accept. It's particularly useful when giving feedback that might not be well received or when you want to avoid seeming pushy. For example, I could come if you want. I could give you a ride home if you want. I could do it if you want. These statements aren't forceful, but they imply that you're offering help in a nonchalant way. The key is to make the other person feel that they have control over the situation while subtly pushing them to accept your offer. This technique works especially well when the task or feedback is something the other person might resist. By offering it in a way that doesn't demand an immediate decision or impose pressure, you increase the chances of them agreeing, even if they initially didn't want to. For example, I know that you won't consider my advice, but I'm worried about your unhealthy lifestyle. Maybe you won't care, but your deodorant is too weak and doesn't last long. Have you thought about keeping one for backup at the office? These statements work by introducing a concern in a non-confrontational way. You're preemptively acknowledging that the other person may not agree with you or may not care about your point, which lowers any potential resistance. It also creates space for the person to reconsider or feel less defensive about what you're saying. This indirect approach works well when trying to address a sensitive issue without triggering an argument or confrontation. Next, consider how to say shut up and listen in a more pleasant, tactful manner. I don't know if you realize how hard it is for me to work all day and then come home and feed the children. I don't know if you realize how long I've been tolerating this. I don't know if you realize how long I've been waiting my turn. This method subtly calls attention to the effort or frustration you're experiencing, making the other person aware of your emotional state without directly telling them to stop talking or pay attention. It's a way to draw empathy and make the other person feel your perspective. The key is in the phrasing, which allows the speaker to express their emotions without sounding overly confrontational or demanding. Now, you're probably wondering, how exactly will this help me with women? Here's the thing, this video and these techniques are just one episode of a broader series on how to attract women. If you watch only this video, you may not fully grasp the depth of what's needed to understand how women think and how attraction works. The full series covers the nuanced psychological factors behind attraction, providing you with a more complete approach to relationships and communication. Only after watching the whole series will the techniques from this video truly make sense in context. But before you go, let me share something valuable with you. I've created an online course that lays out a step-by-step formula for making women attracted to you, no matter what you may feel you're lacking. The course dives deep into the psychological aspects of attraction and uncovers exactly what women are drawn to in a man. far beyond superficial traits like height, looks, or money. If you're interested, you can find the link to the course in the video description. And of course, if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below. Take care of yourself and best of luck in your journey.